Please make it loud for Josh Johnson!
When I was growing up, you know, I would hear these stories of people who were like really in the life, you know? Like they were doing bad things. They were like, this is bad. Probably gonna go to jail. And I heard this story one time, this dude, everybody got locked up, but there was this trap house. In case you're not aware, a trap house is where illicit materials are sold. I just, you know, sometimes you might say trap house, or there might be someone who's like, so booby traps? Like, is it a trap door situation? Like when you walk in, watch out for the wire, you're gonna fall down to the basement? No, I mean drugs. I mean the buying and selling of drugs. And so this trap house was known for being pretty busy. It had become so busy that they had bought some property, you know, several blocks away and opened up another trap house. Business was booming. Things are going very well. Whenever you are selling so many drugs that you have to buy property, we are entering documentary territory. Most trap houses are really just dudes playing video games until somebody knocks on the door. Like, it's not a busy day. And you gotta stay at trap house the whole time because you don't know when someone might get the itch. And so they opened up another trap house, but this location was not as poppin' for some reason. They must have opened it in a bad neighborhood. Can you imagine? Can you imagine being all drugs, be like, I'm not going over there though, that's dangerous. And so even though they opened another location, and even though they tried to tell people, hey, you can come here or you can go over there, people liked the original trap house. It stayed just as busy as ever, with some business going on at the second location, but mostly it was here, right? And okay. Let's just call him Jerry, all right? And Jerry ran both trap houses. And he did a pretty decent job, you know? Kept his books, kept his finances, really, like, he knew his inventory, you know what I mean? He could have made a great store manager at any grocery store. There was this dude named Twan, and Twan found out about these very popular trap houses. Well, one popular, one not so popular, right? And he made a plan to rob the trap house, the main one, the lucrative one, right? So his plan for robbing the lucrative trap house was to basically set up a diversion at the one that wasn't as busy. So he basically faked a robbery at the one that was not as busy. He had some guys go over there, bang on the door, act like they had guns, they were about to break in, because he knew it would make everyone call Jerry. Jerry and his boys would go over there, you know. By the time they get there, those guys have already left, and then the main trap house is left defenseless. They break in, Twan and them break in, they steal all this money out of the trap house, right? Take it back to their place. Now their place is a stash house. Stash house should be self-explanatory. If I've lost you at stash house, I cannot help you. But the trap house has been robbed, everything's been taken back to the stash house, okay? And then Twan and his boys thought they had made a killing. They were like, this is great. No one even knows that it was us, because they had planned it very well. They planned it all the way down to the detail of if those guys who did the fake robbery got caught, they wouldn't even know who hired them, right? But Jerry's no fool. Jerry started asking around, and he could kind of tell that some of these guys were lying, some of these guys weren't lying. He traced everything back to Twan. And so he set up a plan to rob Twan's stash house. To go in there and not just get his stuff back, but take the rest of whatever was in there. And his plan wasn't as meticulous. He just sort of ran up in there with a lot of men and guns. Now, what he did do is he waited. He learned the routine. He learned who would be there when. It took months. And then finally, he was like, we're gonna do it on Tuesday. They never paying attention on Tuesday. We're gonna run up in there. It's only gonna be like 5 of them. If it's 15 of us, I don't think we'll meet a lot of resistance. It's not like it's their money, it's Twan's money. And so that's what they did. They broke up in there, went ahead, zip-tied everybody, and took everything, which took several trips. The people at the stash house did have to watch themselves be robbed for quite a while. Imagine you over here, you're not gonna get away with this. Then you think they've left, they come back in the door. Left all this right here. And so then one of them, being new to the lifestyle, being a new, some would say prospect gang member, was so appalled at the theft that when he freed himself, lacking all presence of mind, called the police. This man called the police. It was like they ran up in there, they had guns and everything. They had a gun in my hands. He's telling all this to 911. They took everything. They took the weed. They took all the money. Took my favorite Glock. And, some people were duct taped and everything, duct taped over the mouth, zip tied behind everything. So when, as soon as he called 911, he started freeing everybody else. And as soon as he ripped that tape off, they're like, "What is wrong with you? We gotta get out of here now." And so then they all left. They all ran up out of there because the police, catching wind that there was a robbery of the stash house, made themselves available immediately. No, they got out in time not to get caught. They got out in time to see the police raiding the stash house from a few doors down. And that's the thing, is like people say, crime doesn't pay, or like criminals are dumb or whatever, but there are some very smart people who, for whatever reason, enter a certain lifestyle, choose to stay there, or maybe it's all that they know. And if criminals were so dumb, they wouldn't be fascinated. We are fascinated by career criminals. We're fascinated by people who do things that aren't just illegal. They have the gall to try to pull something off that has so many different entry points to danger. Like, just in the past few days, the Louvre was robbed. And I have not been able to settle. This is amazing. Okay, so if you're not familiar with the Louvre or the Louvre or whatever, it's one of the most visited museums in the world, and people go there and then they act like they've been changed by art. And you ask them what they saw, they can't name anything or anybody. They were just like, "No, the Mona Lisa was there, looking unimpressed." Well, there were these robbers that broke in. And they broke in dressed as construction workers, right? They had actually rented this like powerlifting vehicle that had a ladder that would bring them up to the next level where they could cut in, because they brought tools to cut in through the window and enter that way. They didn't want to just come through the front. And it made sense that they were dressed as construction workers, because the Louvre is under construction. Permanently, I guess. It's always under. Why is Europe never finished? Europe always, all of Europe, always, unless you're out in the country, there's always like, oh, we gonna fix this road. We've been working on it since 1822. But that's y'all's fault. Y'all keep changing the roads. We just, right when we finished the cobblestone, y'all were like, no, it's asphalt now. And so look, they break in, and they break in with these power tools. They had like an angle grinder and everything. And that's when the alarms were going off and stuff. And then they get in through this museum window, and the part of the museum that they're in is where these rare crown jewels are being held. Right? They didn't bother with the Mona Lisa. There was a crowd. There's a line. You'd never make it out. People be like, no, I want to see. And people keep, they keep criticizing the security. They keep criticizing the people that were doing security. But those people did approach them. They were like, hey, you don't. You better not. Because what is museum security really supposed to do? Let's be honest. Let's be real. If you work security in any format, they should arm you with as much as it takes to protect what's supposedly valuable. Think about this. When you see someone working for like Brinks, right? And they bring a Brinks truck to do a deposit for a bank. Let's say a whole grocery store is like, hey, we got like $250,000 that we need to transport over to the bank to make our deposit. The bank is like, don't worry, we'll send somebody. They hire Brinks. Brinks comes over. They have a truck. And not just a truck, like a bulletproof truck. And then they get two people. They get two people to make sure nobody knocks you over the head when you're trying to grab the bags and put them in the truck. They get two people, and not just two people, two of the biggest people you've ever seen. Like two people that are so big that it's like, you are the gun, right? And then I think they give them a gun. They always hold in their pocket. Maybe they don't have a gun, but it looks like they have a gun. And they don't give them cuffs because they don't plan on taking any prisoners. And then they get in there, Brinks always handles a drop like they are being robbed. Like they always handle the drop the way a bank robber would handle the drop. Because Brinks, I used to work at a grocery store, and Brinks would come in and they'd be like, so where is your safe, or when you, hurry. And we'd be like, oh, it's over here. Okay, it's over here, all right. And then the one would get to work putting, the other one just watching us. I'm ringing people up. I'm putting more money in the till, and they were still like, but you might try anything. I don't know you. And then they would leave, and they'd leave all fast. And then they'd run into the truck, throw everything in the truck, and then they would always peel out a little bit, which made me uncomfortable. One time they came and did a pickup, and I was like, y'all sure that was Brinks? Because they were a little squirrely. But then for some reason, there are times where you're supposed to protect, or you're supposed to hold guard of something, and you're giving less and less resources as you do it. Like, you look at a Brinks security guard, and then you look at like a mall cop. They're like, you get one flashlight. I guess shine it in their eyes or something. If you hit somebody hard enough in the head with it, the glass will break. That's something. But nobody gets done dirtier Nobody gets done dirtier than museum security. Museum security, not only do they give you nothing, no flashlight, they don't even give you a stapler to hit somebody with. They give you nothing. All they give you is a dress code. They're like, hey, just show up in all black, nobody will mess with you. You show up in a black shirt with a black suit jacket and some black pants and black shoes, people think you John Wick. They won't even approach any of the art. Because truly, what is a museum security guard supposed to do? I go to a lot of museums. I try to go to a museum in every city that I do a show, if I can, right? And I've been in these museums, beautiful art. And then you see, you get a little too close, and you see this thing go off, this like little, you don't even know where the alarm is, but like it'll just, that's the too close alarm. Because it's not like a real alarm, it's just annoying, and it goes off until you back up. So if you're a pointer, I go to a lot of museums with pointers. Everyone I take to a museum love to point. It's like we all three again, and they're like, I like the flap. As soon as you hear, somebody works for the museum, comes over, black everything, with an attitude. Could you not? Ma'am, back up. They love that hair. Back up. Give it a little space. Let the art breathe. And you want to know who a museum security guard's arch nemesis is? Because it's not like a grown man. It's not a grown woman. It is any child. Any child will ruin their day. Because I don't know what it is about the frequency of the alarm, but if you're 4, you can't hear it. If you're 4, you're like, I was at this museum one time. This security guard was in a true predicament because this child was out here touching everything. He was touching it to the point that it sounded like their alarm was going off to the tune of Mary Had a Little Lamb. And finally, the security guard started like chasing his child around, and not like really chasing him, not like Dennis the Menace chasing him, but just like following them around, hoping to maybe this kid's gonna go back up to their parents or something and be like, can you please hold your child's hand or something, because they've been touching everything. Got applesauce on everything. Because as a security guard, what are you gonna do? You can't grab this kid. You can't actually grab this. I know that sounds crazy to anybody who was born in any era before now. You have to kind of let this kid put applesauce on all the art, because if you touch this kid, you've committed murder. So if you snatch this kid and even hold their hand so you can find their parent, you are basically killing them. So you have to like let them kind of do it, but then follow them around, but then not touch them, but then make sure they don't touch anything. It would look terrible. And so finally, this security guard just started running interference on every item. This child was walking up, getting ready to touch a sculpture. Security guard get in there. No. Just trying to box him out of every room. And then finally, this kid, realized what was going on. It felt like it was a game. So this kid is like, oh, you want to play? I love to play. Playing's my favorite thing. Playing's basically my job. And so he running interference. There's a painting. And finally, this kid gets boxed in. And even the security guard's like, I don't know what to do now. Because like, this would be when you would like snatch their hand and be like, hey, is your child not with you in the museum? I might have them. But he was like, doesn't want to touch his kid, but doesn't want the kid to touch anything else, but then is in the corner, but then is also a grown man cornering a child in a corner. Just because you're at work doesn't make it look better. All this kid has to yell is stop, and you going straight to jail. I'm your only witness, and I'm not really here right now. And so this kid boxed into the corner, and you can see the kids having fun. Kids over here. Nowhere to go but under. This kid slipped under his legs and ran away. This man turned around. Started chasing after this kid even more, and then the kid went to the only room he hadn't got applesauce on. And was next to this painting. I don't really remember who painted this, but it was a huge, huge painting of a ship in a storm. And it was one of those that was like, it was a marvel because of its scale. You know, so it's not like one that you just hang up and 6x8, whatever. This thing was huge. It took up almost the entire wall, which meant he could definitely reach it. This kid walked up to the painting, and now the whole thing is a game. Touching the stuff's a game, trying not to get caught is a game. This kid's having fun. He thought museums were boring. He's having the time of his life. This kid standing next to the painting. And admittedly, I was also running after them so I could keep watching. I didn't try to help him at all, but I was like, I gotta see the rest of this. Like, what you gonna do? This man gonna run out of breath soon. Security guard gets in the room, huffing and puffing. And he just goes, even the kid for a second was like, ooh, are you? I might have killed a grandpa. I don't even know. And then this kid goes in his pocket and lifts an applesauce covered finger. And I was like, it's been in his pocket the whole time. Children are disgusting. This kid been running around with a pocket full of applesauce this entire museum trip. And then Unc running security goes, don't. This kid, no words, no emotion in his eyes. You can tell he gonna grow up to be a bad person. This kid, applesauce covered finger just went, and so if a security guard is defenseless against a child, what do you expect them to do against actual robbers with angle rods that they just used to break into the second floor window? Because the security ran up on them, no, hey, get out of here, none of that. And then they went, security was like, you know what, let us help you. Everybody out. Everybody out. Everybody get out now. Security made everybody get out but them. Don't you see these men working? Get out. They over here on time crunch. And you over here, ooh, look at the jewels. Get out. In fact, there was a news report that cracked me up. I laughed so hard because the security report, there was this person who, I don't think they were like head of security for the Louvre or anything, but they were basically like, it is museum security's number one job to make sure that the people are safe, and that's what they did. They made sure the people were safe. I was like, you are changing the narrative right now, because anytime I got too close to a painting and I heard the and then I had somebody come over, it didn't seem like it was for my protection. You know what I mean? It wasn't like they were running up, hey, that one, that painting, that wakes up. Don't get close. please. And so then, robbers start grabbing everything, grabbing these like Napoleon era empire crown jewels, right? They grab so much, they grab too much. They actually grab so much they drop one. They drop one of the crowns outside. And this is gonna sound dumb. This will sound dumb, so bear with me because I know it's gonna sound dumb, but I don't think it's dumb, all right? I thought, truly, even when I went to museums, for as many museums as I go to, I've been to museums in Europe, I go to museums here, I go to every museum that I can. I thought for certain that when you see something in a museum, that under certain circumstances is a replica. I can tell by your reaction that some of y'all think I'm dumb and some of y'all think what I thought. I'm telling you right now, when I would go to the museum, I would admire the brushstrokes, I'd admire everything, but I would be like, this is the fake one though. Like this has to be the fake one. And I thought that because if you remember, right before 2020 and even after the pandemic, you would have activists that would go to museums. These, climate activists would go to museums and they just throw like tomato soup on supposedly priceless paintings, right? They would go up to like a Van Gogh and be like, blah, and then they glue themselves to the wall or something, and then they would be like, this is why we did this, and you will have to listen to me for as long as it takes to unsuperglue my hand from the wall. Because people who are climate activists feel like no one is listening to the point where the only thing that will get any attention or like stop people for a second to listen to them is just extreme acts that knock you out of whack. You know what I mean? Just things that you go, what? What? They did what? Why did they do that? And then they get to explain. It's like the better version of canvassing, because they tried to canvass. They really did. Everyone that cares about the climate tried to canvass, and what did you do? You walk by them. They were like, do you have a minute for the planet? And you're like, I'm headed to work, please. I was with a friend one time, and look, I've stopped plenty of times. I can't stop every time. And so they were like, do you have a minute for the planet? And then my buddy was like, nah, we're good, and kept walking, have a good day. And this dude got really bad. This dude canvassed and was like, you on the planet? You don't have a minute for the planet you on? But that was happening a decent amount. There were these supposedly priceless paintings. They were getting vandalized, people throwing Campbell soup on them and everything. So then I was like, surely a museum would not allow Campbell's soup to get thrown on the real one, like the regular one, because the museum was always super chill about it. The museum, they would like throw tomato soup on a Van Gogh and the museum would be like, stuff happens, we gonna get it off. You gonna what? You gonna get it off? Because when I got close, when I tried to smell the painting, I heard, and then you came over, no smelling. It was get it off, no big deal. Or you would see things like I don't know about you, but the tomato soup that I eat got a little oil to it, and you throw it on oil painting, it seems like it might leave a stain. I have no idea. But then you would see the museum come out and be like, no permanent damage was done to the artwork. And I'm like, how? I've dropped suits that were clear on my hoodie before it had the stain forever. How's this 200-year-old acrylic painting fine? It must be a fake. I used to think that, look, if you go to a museum and you see just like you could touch it, that one can't be real. But if you go to a museum and it's behind glass, that's the real one, because they bothered to protect it. Why are you just bothering to protect some pieces? That doesn't make sense to me. So then in my head, I was like, those aren't the jewels. You know what I mean? That's just colored glass. These people so stupid, they ran up in there and risked their freedom for some colored glass. And then the French government came out and said, priceless items have been stolen from the Louvre. And I was like, that's the real junk! Y'all didn't run any armed security around the real crown jewels? For a split second, I felt like it was my money. I was like, what are y'all doing? Ooh, I need to sit down. You said it was priceless, and then right after saying it was priceless, they were like, it's about $100 million. I was like, oh, seems like a price. You said prices for a day and a half, and then immediately y'all were like, I think 103 probably. At least round up to 110. And then, in my opinion, museum handled it wrong. You know, they were over here freaking out. Everybody, the French government, they got everybody on it. They got like their version of the FBI. They have the local police. They have everybody on it. They plastered all the jewels that were missing all over international news and everything. If I was trying to save face, let's say I was head of museum security, I was trying to save face, I would come out to the public immediately after the robbery and be like, y'all, that was Banksy. Y'all know Banksy played too much. But this is where I wish that they had done a better job of being creative, being inventive, you know? You've just been robbed, one of the boldest robberies that we've seen. And you are the most visited museum in the world. Why don't you just see this as a W? You know what I mean? Instead of freaking out and shutting down the whole wing and staying closed for a day, all you gotta do is put that tape around the crime scene and make that an exhibit. We all wanna see it. Bring people in. Make the security guards that did do their job, the tour guides, just be like, it was 4 of them. They ran up in here. I was like, hey, get out of here. And they were like, ving, ving, ving. I was like, you right. All right, I'ma go. But I'm telling everybody, and that's why I'm telling you now. And yeah, you can see the glass right here. Take a piece of glass home. You can take a piece of glass home if you want. The jewels used to be right there. That's crazy, right? Jewels used to be just like, and the light used to hit it like that, but then they brought the grinder and they so. But they were real ones. That's why I'm doing this now, or else I'd be fired. Oh, it sucks. It does. It sucks because, like, it's just gonna turn museum security into TSA. Yeah, I mean, because look, this was, as far as museum security goes, this was their 9/11. So if you think you're just gonna roll up in there and have a good time, that's not what's gonna happen. You're gonna show up and they're gonna be like, all right, shoes off. They all gonna have the wand now. Oh, brutal stuff. You're gonna walk into your local museum. You're not even in France. But there's gonna be that security guard, takes his job extra serious, and be like, you're not gonna get me, not today. Pants down, pants down. No, I got a check. You could have anything. You could have an angle grinder in your pants or something. You know, we have some very expensive cups here. I love a tour guide at a museum because then they'll tell you how expensive something is. And at least with the pottery, maybe this is me not being cultured, but some of the pottery that's in museums, and then they'll tell the story of how the pottery got to the museum, and then they'll be like, you know, this is worth easily $100,000. And I'll be like, nah, it's not. It's not. Like, it isn't. Like, it is not. As much as it is here, it is not worth that. Like the function of is, like it is here, like it exists, like it is. It is here. And it is not worth that. And you know how it's not, I know it's not worth that. I know it's not worth that because you had to tell me how much it was because I thought it was worth nothing. I thought y'all dug it up and brought it here because y'all were like, this was just in the ground. Isn't that interesting? I bet you people aren't leaning over the register at the gift shop being like, how much was that clay cup? I only have 50,000 on me. Dang. I would have loved that clay cup that looked like a caveman did it. Because I need to be clear here. I'm not just trying to be rude. The one that I'm talking about, it wasn't like some beautiful African art. It wasn't like a Greek pot or something that was painted with a story on it. It just looked lumpy. It just looked lumpy to the point where I was like, even when they drank out of this, there's no way they got the water on a consistent basis. You could tell it's primitive because it looked like a cup that gulps. Looked like it pours when it wants to. Lip of it all uneven and everything. This is $100,000. I'm like, all right. You sure you didn't look at it too fast and add 2 extra zeros? Because I don't think so. There was a guy. There was a really rich guy, apparently. I don't know. I don't know him, but everybody was saying how rich he was. And he got on the Instagram to actually physically cry about the crown jewels being stolen. And he gave this whole speech about how, like, the robbers, because there's this assumption that the robbers aren't gonna be able to just sell the jewels they stole as is. There are plenty of people in the world that would pay the money it would take to sell them just as is, and maybe they just keep it and only they know they have it. But art collectors usually like to show off their collection, and so they can't tell anybody. So it's better just go ahead and maybe melt it down, sell the jewels. The jewels themselves are still very expensive. In fact, you see where throughout history pieces have been stolen. Mona Lisa was stolen before. Pieces sometimes get stolen, but unless you can sell it to someone, what's it really worth? And so there's speculation that already these jewels have been melted down and being sold for parts, or maybe pieces are being sold that might not be able to be traced back to the complete set. And this guy got on social and he was just crying. Dude had to be in his like 50s, something like that, and he was like, is that crying where, okay, you know, it was like the crying you do when you're little, but you let yourself do it again when you get grown if something gets to you enough. Which is crazy because he went online to cry, but then was fighting the crying. But he's fighting the crying to camera. But then just don't turn the camera on yet. Like if you let it out real quick and then do your video. You doing the video, like no one putting the video in your face right now. You doing the video and you, wait, just wait. No one asked for this video. You could wait a day. You could wait till you're over it, or you could just not do it. But this dude got, some people just cry like they choking, and it's just. And then he said a bunch of stuff, and he did say it in French, and I don't speak French, so I'm gonna paraphrase from what everybody said he was saying. But I know he said some of this because a lot of people said he said it, and then I know there's some of it that might be like editorialized on what he said because I don't know if he said that because I don't speak any French. And then also he didn't even say what he said in French well because he was crying through the whole thing. Like. And look, to be fair, maybe some of that was crying and maybe a little bit of that was the accent. Maybe some of that was the accent, because there are certain people that when they speak French, they do seem upset for no reason, so then that's... It's like, a cry or was that one? Were you saying one just now? Were you like, ooh? Or is that you trying to hold it together? Because that's why you should have waited to make the video. That's a cry. That was not French. That one. And what this dude basically said was that you didn't just steal from the Louvre. You stole from the French people. You stole a piece of our heritage. You stole a piece of our history. And if you melt that down, if you repurpose that, if you sell that, you will burn in hell because you have stolen from the people. And I'm sure, I'm almost positive, I don't know everyone who's seen the video, I just know that I saw it, but I'm sure if you saw that video and you were from Africa or Brazil or just anywhere, I'm sure you watched it and you were like, oh no. Someone stole a piece of your heritage? What are you gonna do? Someone in Sri Lanka is like, not France. No. What are you gonna do? And look, I can understand if you are from some of those other countries, if you're from like an African country or something like that, if you're from Haiti and you see this thing, that you might be like, oh no, not the Louvre. They have our stuff too. Did they steal our stuff? Now it's gonna be harder to find. Because that's also what was there. So now, oh no. Someone stole it, you know? I just love the story so much. I love the robbers. Because look, because they even showed up. They weren't just dressed as a construction outfit. They had on the, you know what I mean, the thing, mask and top and bottom. You know, they were wearing the baklava. I love this crime so much because it feels a lot like somebody that runs a trap house robbing a stash house, and then the person from the stash house is like, we gotta call the police. I can't believe somebody would steal from us. This is unacceptable behavior. We stole all this stuff fair and square. This was ours. And then they took it from us in an act of injustice. Stanford, y'all have been amazing. Thank you so much. I appreciate y'all. I hope you have a phenomenal time.
When I first moved to New York, I had a date, and I went on this date, once again, not fully hungry, you know, had a little nibble at home.
Gotta.
I get there, and date's going fine, you know, like we're having a decent time. But then she goes to the bathroom, and I get a call from Chase. And Chase
I remember this.
is giving me like a fraud alert. And they're like, hey, are you in Arizona right now purchasing some, I can't remember what it was, but it was like skiing equipment in Arizona. It was like something that didn't make any sense.
Yeah, a place where there are no mountains. They were.
Yeah. And so then I was like, no, I'm actually in New York. And they were like, oh, well, it looks like your credit card has been stolen or your number was compromised or something. So we're going to have to cancel the card and we'll issue you another one. And I was like, actually, I am on a date right now. Could you please just let them steal a little bit longer?
Yeah.
Until at least for the next like hour and a half.
Or at least can you wait till my date gets back to the table and you can talk to her?
Yeah, so she knows
'cause
I'm not a
imagine-
deadbeat.
Because imagine getting back to the table and then the guy being like, man, my bank just called me. And turns out they had to cancel my cards because of a fraud alert. Like, imagine, like, any woman listening to this right now, imagine that situation and what your thought would be of being like, this motherfucker.
So I'm like, please just look, you can't cancel the card yet. All right, the date is at least going fine. You know, I don't know if there's a future here, but please just don't ruin this for me. All right? I'm new in town. I don't have a lot of friends. Okay, I left everything behind in Chicago. I was just giving this one my life story. I left everything behind in Chicago, and I am sleeping on a floor. All right. Please don't cancel this card. Please. Okay. And she was like, well, now that you've said that you're not there, I can't let fraudulent charge. And I'm like, ma'am, please. And so then, so now I'm actually scared I'm going to cry. Why? And then my date will come back out of the bathroom seeing me cry. And she'll ask what's wrong, and I'll be like, I'm on the phone with Chase. And she'll be like, who is Chase? Your ex or something? Why are you so emotional? Like, no, there's a fraud alert in Arizona with some ski equipment. Oh, it was
I just want to pay for the dinner.
It's only $15. Because the place was cheap too. I remember.
Yeah. So you got to wrap the call, be on your phone, and she's like, "What are you up to?" You're just like, "I'm just looking for Groupons."
Yeah. Oh man, that was so bad. And then, I mean,
I remember you calling me after that happened.
Yeah. She ended up. I think I really just jarred her enough where she was like, "Look, I won't do it right away, but I have to do it today." And I'm like, thank you so much. Thank you, Brenda. You don't know what you've done for me.
Was this like one of your first like dates when you moved to New York? Wasn't it like one of the first that you?
Yeah. Oh, it was bad.
Welcome to the jungle, bitch.
Hey, I'm Josh Johnson. Welcome to the channel. This is where I'm going to be posting clips of my stand-up.
So now I'm trying to hump it off as hard as I can. Just bend my knees and dig deeper. Because I want to touch, everybody knows you touch a possum, get bit by a possum, you become a possum. That's just science. And pinching butts is that old lady sexual harassment that nobody cares about, you know? But she did. She pinched my butt and then whispered in my ear, "You firm like my mattress." It's like, oh my God. Oh my God.
Clips from my podcast.
This sounds like a joke about what happened to someone when they went to New York.
Nah, man.
Like, I
this
showed
is
up in
like
New York and someone threw hot dog water on me. Like,
no.
Like. This is wild.
She showed up to her sublet smelling like hot dog water.
I have a job interview after this.
So basically
at a vegan restaurant.
Imagine that. Imagine, especially if someone's been vegan for a long time, they're like, I don't know what you smell like, but I know it offends me to my core.
Yeah, you smell like sad. I don't like it.
Yeah, even meat eaters will be like, she smells like hot dog water.
Just to know it by scent.
And just stuff that I've been on.
Why are all the ghosts white?
Yeah.
You don't think any slaves have unfinished business?
It's interesting now because, like, you know, if you live in like certain gentrified neighborhoods, you can't tell if that person's a ghost or just a hipster.
And they're not healthy, so you're like, that's probably...
Yeah, like, this guy is scurvy.
You shouldn't be translucent.
Then she goes to my kitchen, which is like not a kitchen, it's a kitchenette, but she goes to my kitchen. She grabs my only fork and she popped my air mattress.
Oh no.
And so I am like, I'm on it. So I'm only making it worse. Like the air's shooting out fast now. So I try to put my finger in to stop the air from coming out of the hole. And she just jumps around my bed, popping new holes, right? Oh, no. And so now my body is like trying to cover. I've got like 8 fingers and a toe in my bed to keep myself afloat. And then she gets on her hands and knees on the ground so she can get eye level with me and laugh in my face, but there's like no joy in her laugh. Like her laugh was just like ha 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 ha. And I was like, that's insane. Like this is the person I need in my life. But that being said, all of it did force me to get a real bed.
Good.
So like, subscribe, tell people about it, and we'll all have a great time. I promise.
You reminded me of a couple things there. One, off of like drunk lines coming out wrong when you clearly are trying to say something else. I just remember this was me and my ex. We had a party in our apartment, and like we had just moved in together. It was kind of like, oh hey, you know, we had this party, and I think it was for her birthday or something. But one of her friends was there, and her friend like showed up drunk and then was leaving even drunker. And so she hugged me at the end of the night, and she tried to do the whole like, if you hurt her, I'll kill you speech kind of thing. But she literally looks at me and goes, if you hurt her, I'll kill her. And I just stared at her, and she went, no, wait. And then she tries to go again. She goes, if you hurt her, I will hurt her. And I'm like, nope, you downgraded at least from murder. You're still hurting her though.
If you kill her, you will hurt her. All right. There's a story about this woman in Chicago who was driving through the South Side, right? So I guess she was coming. I don't even know where her trip was from, but she had gone to the grocery store for some reason on the other side of Chicago and was driving back up the north side. So maybe she was running errands or something. And it was insanely hot. This was like, we're talking midsummer, like heat on another level. And so she's driving, and as she's passing by this sort of, what's the word for it? It's basically where a lot of the abandoned businesses and houses are boarded up and stuff.
Yeah.
She's passing through that area, and she hears this loud pop. And she feels something in the back of her head, and it hurts really bad. So she just hits the gas as hard as she can and drives to the closest hospital. And she's got like a little bit of blood on her cheek dripping down to her shoulder. And so she thinks, oh my God, I've been shot in the head. Like this is insane. Like I have to get to the hospital before, you know, I pass out or something, right? She gets there, and it turns out that in the heat of her car, because she didn't have any air conditioning on, in her groceries, her biscuits had exploded and popped. And so she got hit in the back of the head real hard with some biscuits and some biscuit lid. And so she runs into the hospital. She's like, I've been shot. And so they immediately run for it and everything. And they're, you know, like even standing there, they're looking for a wound and everything. Right. And like, why does this woman smell like Pillsbury? You know, like just like, because she's got biscuit also in her hair. You know?
The Southside Doughboys got you. Yeah.
And so they were moving hair around and stuff. And they were like, we can't see, like, so she had like a small cut, and that's what bled down the cheek and onto the shirt. But then past that, it was just dough, like all over the back of her head. Oh, it was crazy.
That's awesome.
Those biscuits, apparently, they messed up her interior too.
Yeah, if it like exploded and just like covered the inside of her car with biscuit. That's like those, you know, those money bombs that banks use, but if it was made out of cake.
Blam. Flaky deliciousness everywhere.
I love visiting my white friends because they always got new pets. They always got new pets they think are normal. Because, like, we all read fairy tales and stuff. We were little. We all watched the Jungle Book. I don't know what was happening. I was raised by black people, so I have no idea what was happening in white households. But I feel like there were extra chapters in those books because white people really out here thinking every animal is their friend. Like, that's... Dude, white communion with nature is, like, almost upsetting. It's like... And I went over to my buddy's house, and something hit me in my face, like, real hard. And I thought it was a garbage bag, right? And I was like, it's not even air conditioning here for a garbage bag to be floating around. So I was like, and it was loud, too. Like, it hit me, like, and then I turned around, I was like, what was that? He's like, oh, I forgot to tell you, I got a bat. You got a what? He's like, no, I got a bat. I'm like, where? What? What the fuck? You live in a studio, you have a bat? Where's it even sleep? And he's like, Josh, it sleeps in the closet. He answered me like I was being unreasonable. He's like, Josh, it sleeps in the closet. That's insane. It really is. I got another buddy. He got his dog. This is the oldest dog I've ever seen in my life. This dog, 22. It's so old. You know how when dogs get old enough, their bark change? This dog bark like, bark. It's half scream, half bark. The dog is so old, it got human problems. So he take your dog to the vet and be like, oh yeah, his psoriasis acting up. God damn. What the fuck does that happen? And then the vet like, yeah, he's got a little bit of dementia. I'm like, dementia? This dog gonna be meowing in 3 days. That's crazy as hell. That dog went, bark, bark, meow. And it's crazy too, because because his back legs, he didn't even have an accident. His back legs just done being legs. Like, his back legs are like, bro, we 22. Like, we are 6,000 in dog years. It's done. And so then they got him the wheelchair for dogs. You know what I mean? The wheelchair. But then, he don't really know how to use it, so he adjusts it. But now he can finally, like, really run again because it's wheel powered now. And so now he be running, but then can't fully control where he going. So then he'll be turning, and the shit look like Tokyo Drift. It's the dopest shit I've ever seen, because the dog will get excited and start running, and they're like, no, nothing for you. It's just crazy, because, like, when you, like, okay, this is where you won't like me anymore. At least with dogs, there's like that could be your best friend, but you can see, oh, okay, they don't have a quality of life that is not good, so I'm gonna go ahead and, take them to the vet and, put them down and everything. And nobody wants to do that. It's a horrible thing. Like, I've had to do it for a pup before, and it's very sad. But it is like, I think it should go the other way. Because every man in here got a boy where you like, he don't have no quality of life. Steve life in shambles, all right? Sheila left him, she not coming back. She happier now that she don't have him. So I think I gotta put my boy down. You take Steve to Disneyland and he just having a great day, you like, all right.